What's up, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the Collegeology podcast, where college meets science. I'm your host, Bondi Johnson, and today we're going to talk about the Freshman 15. All right, we're kicking it off strong. Now, a few quick things before we get into the show. A new episode of Collegeology will be produced every Monday evening, so be sure to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed like iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, whatever you like to listen to your podcasts on. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at The Collegeology Podcast for information on topics, as well as participate in contests and even be a part of the show. All links, including links to the studies available, will be in the show notes. Now, let's give this podcast the old college try.
You're listening to the Collegeology Podcast, where college meets science.
Is this gonna be on the exam?
All right, the Freshman 15, the downfall of so many first-year college students. The partying, the alcohol, the freedom to buy your own food for the first time, just college in general. Why is the Freshman 15 so prevalent? How can this unwelcome addition of weight be kept off? And if it finds its way to you, how can you bounce back? Well, today, joining me is Mrs. Jennifer Farrell to discuss how you can keep those 15 or more pounds from finding their way to your waistline, and if they make it there, how to get them off. Mrs. Farrell received her bachelor's from Florida State with dual majors in exercise science and dietetics with a minor in child development, as well as her master's in dietetics. She is currently a teacher in the College of Human Sciences and the program director for the didactic program in dietetics at Florida State University. Mrs. Farrell, hello, and thank you for coming on the show.
Well, hello. Thank you.
Will you go ahead and just give a quick background on what got you into nutrition?
Well, I took the nutrition class. I was required to. I was interested in exercise science. Knew I wanted to go into the health field. I took the nutrition class and I loved it. I was like, people do this for a living?
That's the opposite reaction most people have.
I was like, people do this for a living? I want to do this for a living. And so here I am. Kept going.
Well, we're going to dive right into the Freshman 15. I want to get your take on it, maybe some advice for people who might be struggling with it, or how you can just kind of altogether avoid it. So I went ahead and got the scientific definition, the most scientific I could find. I got it off Urban Dictionary. It's when a first-year college student eats a ton and proceeds to sit on their ass and gain 15 pounds, okay? So most scientific definition of the Freshman 15. I wanted to bring that up mostly because I feel like that is what people think, is that it's just kind of this college students get to college and, you know, maybe they were an athlete in high school and they're not doing it in college, or maybe they had an activity that they like to do with their friends that, you know, kept them exercising. And then when you get to college, you're not doing that anymore. But I don't think it's specifically the exercise or the diet. When you get to college, there's a lot of things like the drinking. And with the drinking comes staying up till the wee hours of the morning, which we all know is not healthy. It doesn't help with weight loss. Lack of food restriction. You have nobody telling you what to eat, when to eat. The stress of college. I mean, hands down, probably one of the most stressful times of your lives. And then the lack of education on these things and, food in general, but not just food, on all of the things that I just mentioned. So, what would you say coming to college is, I don't want to say number one because there's a lot of them, but, we have genetics and we have the lifestyle factor. What would you say is kind of the most important thing when it comes to weight?
When it comes to college students, I think it is the complete upheaval of their lifestyle and having to find a new normal. The new normal, your schedule is not the same every day like it was in high school. You don't have a scheduled practice.
Right.
Your meals are hit or miss.
Right.
Your sleep patterns, and we know sleep is super important for resetting hormones like leptin for weight maintenance. And then when you're eating and introducing alcohol, alcohol is metabolized directly to fat just about. So
right.
It is a complete and utter upheaval and lack of a schedule that allows for easy health habits.
Right. And not to mention the usual pizza or
yes,
whatever it is that follows the night of drinking.
Absolutely. When you eat with friends, you never say, hey, let's go get a salad with grilled chicken. It's like, let's go get wings and a pitcher of beer.
Yes.
And then after several drinks, it's to Guthrie's, not to
the fun places.
Exactly. Exactly.
And just to make sure that we all know that the freshman 15 is a thing, and we'll talk about to what degree it's a thing. This one study that was done, the objective was to look at the belief that college students gain 15 pounds during freshman year and see if there was evidence. Authors aimed to determine whether college students gain weight during freshman year. The conclusion of the study was freshman weight gain was 5.5 times greater than experienced by the general population. So that's not saying 15 pounds, but it was saying 5 times greater than the general population. We have another study where the purpose was to present any changes in body weight that might occur, body composition, RMR, and dietary intake in newly enrolled college freshmen. The conclusion of this study was the present study supports the notion that freshman students, on average, gain weight during their first semester. What I found interesting about this is that it was an increase in the percent fat mass and a decrease in lean body mass. So we know it's not good weight, opposed to some guy who comes to college and he's getting like jacked from working out all the time because it's still weight gain. But this specifically is saying we have an increase in the percent fat mass and a decrease in the percent lean body mass. So you had mentioned something where the average weight gain was much lower than 15 pounds.
I read a study that said it was about 7 pounds.
Okay.
Which is still a lot. I mean, considering on a frame, 7 pounds is still a lot. But definitely the study you saw high fat mass, less lean body mass, definitely lends credence that weight is coming from altered habits, whether those are both dietary and exercise habits.
Right. To cause that, accumulation of fat. And it's not, like I said, the healthy kind of weight that we would be attempting to gain.
Exactly.
So the freshman 15, whether it's 15 pounds or just some amount of weight, is a thing. Now, and it's been shown, the study that you're referring to, kind of cut it in half. But again, it's some sort of weight gain when students come to college. So I want to look at what's causing this. And I feel like some of the unhealthy habits that people have might not be so clear as being unhealthy habits. And an example of one of those things, which I want to address all of these, would be exercising to kind of combat poor eating. So you hear it all the time. It's like, oh, I had, whatever it is, I had a Snickers bar today. Looks like I got to go to the gym and run this off. And feel like it's a very common occurrence now. Like, I feel like that creates a very unhealthy relationship with food. What's your take on that?
It's going to take a long time to exercise off a Snickers bar. So I agree with you. It shouldn't be I need to exercise off certain foods. Our food should be incorporated in our entire daily habits. And then so should some form of healthy exercise. We look at this campus, and it's a very large campus, and you see people walking across campus, and you think that you're getting a lot of exercise. But walking really doesn't burn that many calories. So your overall daily intake needs to be on target, and that's different for everybody.
Right. Okay, so just kind of keeping the food on par with the activity.
And so if you eat, regular, what you might consider regular foods, but then you add in a Snickers bar here and a dessert there and something else, suddenly that's so many calories. You're never going to be able to, quote, exercise that off at the gym. And then it lends to those extra calories, which causes extra pounds. Right.
And not to mention, I feel like when you are kind of going to the gym to work off something that you may have eaten throughout the day, it kind of creates this mentality of like, I really don't want to be here. I'm just here because I feel like I need to be. And then I feel like, it creates this cycle. Like, you start to hate the gym because it's this place you go where you kind of feel self-pity that you're
Very
like, I gotta
much.
run this off. Like, and so an unhealthy habit.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the gym should
say.
never be punishment. It should be, gym is somewhat meditation for the brain, but it's movement.
Right.
And the gym can continue to be that way, and it continue to be stress release as opposed to something that is punishment and causing stress.
Yes.
It should be stress release.
Right. Another thing that you'll hear very often is that people will skip meals. At least I've heard this. This one definitely isn't as common. But people will skip meals to eat more at a certain time. Mm-hmm. And I know that probably isn't necessarily as much of a blatant unhealthy habit as specifically exercising to combat poor eating. But what would you say it might be a downfall of like saving up your calories essentially?
Yeah, some people just don't get hungry in the morning, and that's okay. But if you're doing it and you feel deprived, or you know you're hungry, but you're not going to eat because you know you're going out with friends that night. That's when you become deprived. And when you deprive yourself, then you're more likely to binge. So instead of going out with your friends and really being able to moderate what you're going to eat, you say, I didn't eat all day. I can eat this. And it becomes a binge, but it also becomes a quote unquote reward food. And that starts you into a negative cycle.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Just that bad habit of.
Right. I mean, food is going to be good and bad in terms of taste. And yes, there are foods that we associate with certain celebratory activities and birthdays and things like that. But food is also nothing more than nourishment for our bodies. And so when we hang everything on food, I'm not going to eat here. My whole day surrounds not eating. I'm going to suddenly splurge at the end of the day because I'm going out with friends. I'm saving it all. Your whole day is around food. And it shouldn't be.
Right.
It should be around getting together with your friends, not about the food that you're eating with your friends.
Oh, I think that was perfect to sum that up. It's something that you hear and you're just kind of like, it seems off, and I think that right there is exactly why it's not something that you, or if you're doing, you want to be conscious of and say, hey, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. It might cause this unhealthy cycle. And my favorite would be skipping meals to drink.
Yes.
Because a lot of people will go, if I'm drinking, I want to get drunk faster. Okay, that happens on an empty stomach. I don't want the extra calories of the food because I know alcohol and, what they're mixed with contain a lot of calories. So can you touch on why that might not be a good idea?
Oh, yes. That is one of those things that is so opposite and contrary to what's actually a healthy way to do this. You should definitely eat when you drink, because drinking without food in your stomach increases the absorption of alcohol, which does cause intoxication faster, but also it changes the metabolism to an extent, because all the other food in our body, it slows down the absorption, but it also slows down the metabolism. So instead of working on strictly ethanol, we have other nutrients in our bloodstream. So as someone drinks, they get high blood glucose levels with all the alcohol and that's coming into the body. And then when they metabolize that alcohol, the blood glucose levels drop. And then it causes a lot of negative effects. But when they're eating, then the body still has a little bit of nourishment to work on.
Right.
And so you don't get such negative effects of the low blood sugar, the hangover, the cravings for food after drinking, because people will save up all their calories to drink, but then that self-control leaves them when they've got some drinks in them, and then what they're eating afterwards is very unhealthy.
Oh, of course.
But it's so much better to eat something healthy but still filling before drinking and while drinking, and at least then you're getting good food too.
Right. Eating some sort of nutrition.
Exactly.
Slamming the pizza afterwards.
Exactly.
Okay.
And safety-wise, too much drinking causes so many negative decisions, being intoxicated that quickly. So slowing down the absorption of alcohol is much healthier for you in the long run in terms of just being safe.
Right. And which alcohol we will go more into depth on another episode, so don't worry. We're not leaving alcohol behind. But yeah, like you said, as far as weight gain goes, consuming that alcohol and what you're going to be eating afterwards, especially if you didn't eat before, you're probably going to eat a lot more of whatever it is you're going to eat afterwards,
Absolutely.
Which is going to be not as good of a food decision, most likely.
Yes. Completely contrary to what you want to happen.
Yes. So those are some unhealthy habits that you will commonly see or just hear about. I do want to address some healthy habits that people can maybe start to incorporate and, hopefully combat the weight gain or replace the unhealthy habits with these healthy habits. So I want to talk about portion control and how important portion control is and how much it can help. So what would you suggest is a great way to go, or a good way to go about portion control?
Portion control is so tough because portion is distorted in our society. We don't even know what a normal portion is anymore. If you're eating at like Swanee, you've got your plate, and the My Plate diagram that the government's come out with is actually pretty good. I know that the government doesn't always have great examples for a lot of things, but it basically breaks your plate up into 4 quadrants, and you've got a fruit, a vegetable, meat, and a grain. And so as long as it fits within that plate and you're not spilling over all over the place, that's a pretty good portion. And if you're hungry after you've eaten that, then go back for more vegetables. When you're going out to eat, a lot of times you can safely cut that food in half and get a regular portion. If you go, even if you go to fast food, a child's meal is probably pretty close to a regular portion. It's our portions are way out of control. So the thing I tell people, you can always eat more. So if you order the child's meal and you're still hungry, you can always get more. It's not your last meal.
You can.
If you're at a
definitely
restaurant and you cut all your food in half and you are still hungry, you can eat more. And certainly at Swanee, we know you can go back.
Yeah.
So start off small and then sit for a few minutes and see how you feel. We eat with our eyes, not so much according to how we feel. We eat with our taste buds and we eat with our eyes. And we should really be paying attention to how our stomachs feel as we eat.
Right, which is something that I feel has been lost along the way.
And snacks are a really hard one because we open up that box, that bag, and we just eat out of the box or bag. But if you truly take some out, put it on a plate, put it in a bowl, put it on a napkin, close that container up and walk away from it. And then again, if you want more, you can go back.
Right. But chances are you probably won't want to get up to get it anyway.
Exactly.
You know what? I really don't want it. But
set that back in the cabinet.
There open. Yeah, exactly. Now, how effective do you think an eating schedule is? Do you think it can be helpful? Is it worth trying for some people who think they might have sporadic eating that, might hinder their success when it comes to really controlling what they're eating?
Yeah, there are two very distinct schools of thought on this. So there's the intuitive eating habits, which are you feel hungry, you think about what you're eating, you're going to listen to your body. But on the downside of that, they have shown that people who carry excess adiposity are not able to intuitively determine how hungry they are and how full they are. And so for somebody who's really looking to lose weight, putting themselves on a schedule and making sure it's whatever they can fit realistically into their day, 3 meals and 2 snacks, maybe it's, 2 snacks, a snack and a couple of meals, but putting that may help them. And then as they start to feel full or feel hungry, or they know they're able to figure out how much they eat and how much their body needs, then they can go more intuitive. And for people who are relatively healthy, a lot of people do sort of intuitively eat anyways. But then if you find yourselves gaining weight, clearly your intuition or what you're listening to, so you're getting some false cues somewhere.
Right.
So those false cues could be, I'm watching everybody else eat and now I want it. It could be that you smell certain food and maybe we need to go back to listening to really what does our stomach say? Okay. Are we really hungry or not?
Okay, right. So just like you said before, kind of listen to your body and see what it's feeling and meet that need.
Exactly. But for those who have a lot of weight to lose, they probably haven't had those feelings. They haven't been able to listen to their body's cues for a long time. So putting themselves on a schedule will get them there.
Okay. Definitely help.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like with how busy people are and to what extent that is, sometimes it's an excuse. Sometimes, there's a lot of truth behind it. Would you or have you seen any correlation to people who cook more often opposed to eat out with weight control? Have you seen anything where it helps to cook your own food?
In general, it's easier to eat healthy when you're cooking your own food because you know everything that's going in it. And you can buy those ingredients that have less additives and things that are in them. I mean, if you were to bake your own bread, for example, it only has 3 or 4 ingredients in it.
Right.
You look at what's on the
bread. I got a bread maker for Christmas. I love it.
Oh, I mean, homemade baked bread is the best.
It is.
And it makes your house smell wonderful. But if you go buy a loaf of bread at the grocery store, it's got a lot of things that are added to it. So in general, if you cook, you can buy your own ingredients and you can make things healthier. But on the other hand, cooking does take time. And the startup of cooking, you've got to buy spices and pots and pans and knives and things like that. So that does take an initial investment, even if the long run you can make a meal cheaper, but you've got to have all that initial investment. So there are ways to eat out healthy. It just takes a little more work. You just got to be more selective on where you're going. You may end up having to decrease portion sizes because the food is going to be more calorically dense. So you eat less than what you would eat if you had made it at home.
Mm-hmm. Do you think when it comes to drinking, so I'm gonna jump to low calorie drinks because alcohol is just definitely plays such a big role on college campuses. do you think it's worth it to be conscious of the calorie content of your drinks and try to opt for the lower calorie drinks as far as weight management goes?
I do. So low calorie drinks are also lower in alcohol because ethanol, so if we think about the amount of calories provided, a carbohydrate, which all alcohol is made from a carbohydrate that is fermented. So the carbohydrate provides you with 4 calories per gram. Ethanol provides you with 7 calories per gram. So to lower the calories in an alcoholic beverage, they also lower the ethanol content. So if you look at a Budweiser versus a Bud Light has less alcohol. It also has less calories. It's not just light on the calories.
People
it's
love
also,
their Bud Light.
Exactly. And then if you go down to what is the Mick Ultra, for example, it's even lower in alcohol. So definitely, I think for a lot of reasons, going with the lighter alcohol content also lends you to less calorie content.
Okay, and if I do diet sodas in my mixed drinks, am I going to get cancer, or is that just going to help? Is that just going to help reduce the sugar that I'm taking?
So the link between cancer and artificial sweeteners has been debunked. It is okay to drink diet sodas.
All right.
Yes,
that's good news. That's great news. All right, I want to do a little bit of myth busting. I kind of kicked it off with that right there. But I feel like these specifically really kind of alter the way that people will eat because and most of them are making them think that they're doing something healthier to help manage their weight when a lot of the times it's not. And it's better that they know it's not because then they'll opt for other methods, which are probably going to be a little more effective. The first thing I want to talk about is a calorie is a calorie. So there's kind of this, I think, perception that all calories are equal. And obviously, to a degree, the amount of calories you take in plays a big role. Mm-hmm. But when we look at a calorie is a calorie, that kind of opens the door of like, okay, well, you know, I had cereal, some Pop-Tarts, a few donuts, but hey, I ate, you know, my 1,700 calories today. Mm-hmm. So can we maybe talk about why that might not be the healthiest thing to look at? Is just making sure you hit that calorie mark?
Yeah, I mean, a calorie is a calorie to some extent. I mean, if a person has determined that they need to eat 1,500 calories to maintain their weight and they eat it in 1,500 calories of ice cream, they will still maintain their weight. But the problem with that is what else? The reason we have such a varied diet is because we need things that come from all food groups. You're not getting vitamins, you're not getting minerals, you're not getting the polyphenols and the carotenoids and all those healthy fibers if all you're doing is eating 1,500 calories and ice cream. So true, a calorie is a calorie, but you need your B vitamins to then break down those calories properly. You need all of these really important things in full food groups. And the food groups that provide some of the most bang for your buck, your fruits and vegetables provide all your fiber, they provide vitamins, they provide polyphenols, carotenoids, all those things that help make your skin and hair beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
And, proteins provide lots of B vitamins. And so you need it from all different food groups. Cutting out one group of macronutrients, you're also cutting out other things.
Right.
So calories do need to be in there, but you got to get them from good sources.
Right.
To get everything.
So we're not just looking at that calorie number because then we're probably going to be lacking in some other department.
Absolutely.
Of
your
nutrition.
car needs both gas and oil. Just because you put gas in it, it'll die without oil. So you got to get it. You got to get it all.
Leading off calories a calorie, I want to touch on fat makes you fat. Because it's kind of, I feel like those two things relate very closely to each other. And it's very easy to fill up those calories with carbohydrates when you convince yourself that the fat is making you fat, in which case you might be opting for that low-fat ice cream, as the healthier option. So can we talk about why fat doesn't necessarily make you fat?
Right. So here's the thin vein of truth that came from fat provides 9 calories per gram, which means that when you eat 1 gram of fat, you're getting 9 calories. You could eat 2 grams of carbohydrates and still only get 8 calories.
Right.
So the idea is that if you eat too much fat, you're going to be eating a lot of calories. But that doesn't mean that fat makes you fat. Right. It just means that you need to eat it in the right amount.
Right.
So there is
moderation's key.
Absolutely. There is not one macronutrient, again, that is going to make you fat or make you skinny. You need all 3 of them.
Right. Dr. Clay said it best. I forget who it was, but in his class, he said it was a quote from somebody that it's the dose that makes the poison. I love that. I was like, that is...
I mean, water, you don't drink water, you die of dehydration. Too much water, you die of water intoxication. It's the dose.
Exactly. And I love this. I think I'm going to make a episode solely on this, but people will opt for these natural foods. And again, I feel like there's nothing wrong with opting for the foods that are labeled as natural or organic, but it creates this mentality of I was healthy because I ate natural or because I eat all natural, when that might not necessarily mean that you're eating healthy.
Right. It comes down to one, what is your definition of healthy?
Right.
Because it could be multiple things. The other thing is, every time you look at a food label, remember that food company is there to sell food. They're not worried necessarily, about your health, really. They're there to sell the food. Right. So many people, many dietitians like myself, have problems with these labels because they are sold as healthy, so people think they can eat more of them, and then they increase the price. And in reality, it depends on what healthy is and what you want to go for. So if you would like to go for all organic, that's fine. But also take a look at what you're eating. I talk to moms about kids all the time, and I'll have a mom that says, I feed my kids all organic, and she's feeding them organic cheesy poofs. I would rather see that child eat a non-organic piece of fruit than organic cheesy poofs. And I think I see, and we do see those foods that say organic, so people are like, it's healthy, I can eat it.
Exactly.
But again, it's still a cheesy poof.
Right. Yes, and I feel like that's kind of what I was hoping to hit on, is that just because it's labeled organic or natural does not mean that it's good for you.
Right. It's, again, it does go back to calories and quality of calories.
Right.
Those cheesy poofs don't have a whole lot in them that an apple would,
right,
even if they say they're organic. And the same thing with granola bars. A lot of those granola bars are just glorified candy bars. Yep. If you look at the back, you would be doing just as well eating a candy bar. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those quick snack foods, just be very careful on those labels to make sure that you're getting what you think you're getting.
Right.
If you think that, if you know I'm going for a certain parameter of calories, make sure you're getting it. If what's important to you is that things aren't processed, then look at those labels. But don't just blindly trust the label, because that label is there to sell you.
Right. So if there's somebody that happens to be struggling with weight or is hoping to kind of adopt some more of these healthy habits, I feel like the internet, as wonderful of a thing it is, when it comes to stuff like that, you're going to kind of find a lot of crap before you find any good information. So where should they go? Where should somebody seeking, advice on nutrition or trying to kind of get those things in line, where should they go?
That is a hard thing to do, because the government really does have a lot of good information, but the government's information is kind of boring, and it's not pizzazz. It's not shiny and sparkly like what you're going to get. And it's somewhat general. Whereas if you go and you look for some magic bullet diet, it's going to have lots of clean cut rules. Just because the rules are simple doesn't mean it's easy to follow them or it's right to follow them.
Right.
But if you look at just general information, again, the government's got some good stuff out there. It's things like start with lean proteins and lots of fruits and vegetables, and start there. And the snacks and things, plan your snacks, make that part of your day so that you're not ravenous at the end and grabbing something out of the place that they're next to Chick-fil-A, where you can just run in and
grab the
pod, where you can just pick up something real quick.
Right.
Instead, plan it, know what you're going to eat, and that's really important. But I would probably say the government's some of the best information, even though it's not exciting. It's still it's good. It's solid.
A good place to start, right?
It's solid information. And anytime you see information given out by a dietitian, a registered dietitian, a lot of medical doctors have a lot of good advice, but there's a lot of medical doctors that are out there to sell books as well, to sell their diet. There's a lot of Dr. Oz's out there. But dietitians are they've got real solid code of ethics in terms of what they are allowed to promote. Mm-hmm. So it may not be full of hard, fast rules, but it will give you good guidelines.
Right. They get fit quick type.
Yes. You're not going to see those being sold by dietitians. No. If it takes a year to gain it, you shouldn't expect to lose it in 2 weeks.
Very well said. All right. Well, again, thank you for coming on today. You kicked off the very first episode of the Collegeology podcast with me. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Hopefully you had fun doing it. That's a wrap for today, everybody. I hope you learned some things and had fun along the way. Remember to rate and review the podcast if you liked it to help me out. And keep an eye out for the next episode, which will be out on Monday night. You've been listening to the Collegeology podcast, where college meets science. Until next time.